The following program is brought to you in living color by Trek World.
Hi, it's Jim from Trek World, and today we're going to talk about how I do research. Now, I don't particularly think that I do research in any specific way that's different from everybody else does. I govern my rules for research based off of things I was taught in high school, believe it or not, which I'm sure everybody who's been listening to my videos went through the same thing that I did, especially those of us who are Gen 1. And that is, documentation is king. If you can find anything that says it in black and white, you're home free. No problem. If you can't find something that says it's in black and white, then what you need to do is you need to get a preponderance of evidence that cannot be ignored. All right. So, for instance, there may not be a document that describes the sinking of my yacht in the harbor somewhere, but there would be a preponderance of evidence by all the witnesses who saw it sink. And so you get enough of those witnesses together, and if they all have the right kind of reputations, you now can say, hey, I can accept this as fact. My yacht sank. That means I begin with searching. I'm searching for testimony. I'm searching for photographs. I'm searching for videos. There's a reason why the word research is, in my head, always emblazoned as RE-search, because it's search after search after search after search. It never ends. There's no such thing as downtime for me. You guys have given me the blessing of being a full-time YouTube content creator whose job is Star Trek. Let that sink in for a minute, because it took a while for me, okay? My job is Star Trek. Same as my passion, same as my hobby. So it's all one big happy life for me. So if I'm watching a movie and my mind starts to wander, I'm searching the internet, usually on pictures. Pictures are usually the best way to trigger something in me, because they will remind me of something that I had seen earlier, and they may actually give me a direction. So the other day, I'm searching and searching and searching, and up comes this photograph. And the photograph is of the landing gear from the Aleo. And it's a close-up, and it actually shows you somebody using a marker or something, trying to fill in the lines of what appears to be a parts number or serial number stamped on the side of the landing gear. And it's like, that's all I know at that point. Now, I can make the inference that this is tied somehow to Adam, and I was able to actually verify later that this was in fact tied to Adam. But anyhow, I see that photo, and that photo triggers a memory. And that memory is that Gene Winfield and Matt Jeffries always maintained that the landing gear came from a Beech aircraft. Always. They said it over and over and over again. It's documented in Matt's brother's book about Matt that he published after he passed, that it's a Beech aircraft. But I've heard enough complaints over the years, I've heard enough questions over the years where people go, it doesn't seem to match anything I've ever seen on a Beech aircraft before. So I was aware of the question, and I've been aware of that question for years now. It was one of those things that I love. It's out there in left field, and you're probably never going to get an answer to it. So I go, okay, this picture is a clue. So I search for where the picture shows up on the internet. So I usually find these pictures in Pinterest, and then I trace them back to where they come from on the internet. If the sites don't exist anymore, I use the Wayback Machine. I trace this back to an old post about 12 years ago that Adam did in one of the Star Trek online forums where they were questioning the exact same thing. Has anybody ever actually been able to identify exactly which model of Beech aircraft this was attached to? And during the restoration, Adam and team discovered they could see these numbers. So they lifted these numbers off of the landing gear, and the one photograph that I saw was them filling it in to try to make it more easy to read. And then they posted another photograph which actually had the two sets of numbers, one right over the other. And then they said, these are the part numbers or serial numbers. We don't know anything more about it. Maybe somebody will figure out something. And then silence. Nothing else. Nobody else was ever able to match any of those numbers. Or if they matched them, they didn't bother to tell anybody. Okay? So, I know there's a question I know there's a question about the legitimacy of where it came from. I now have a part number. And now is where maybe serendipity kicks in, because one of my previous jobs in a prior life was for a company called ILC Dover in Delaware. And we had the privilege, or I had the privilege, of working for the company that made all of the spacesuits from the Gemini days, actually before Gemini, from, just test flight days, but from Gemini days to the Mars suit. Believe it or not, we had a Mars suit in 2000. Obviously, we never used it, and I'm sure the new Mars suits bear no resemblance to what we had back then. But, every suit was all made by hand at this facility. The astronauts used to come in and get their measurements and fittings taken regularly. I met Neil Armstrong. I met John Glenn through this, because they'd come in, and the company's only got 400 people in it. It's a small company. And so anyhow, I know from my experience working there that in aerospace, there must be a logistics manual somewhere that contains a bill of materials. And a bill of materials is where they'll take down a part assemblage, and they'll tell you all of the pieces that are inside of it, and all of their individual part numbers that result in the assemblage master part number. So you order the big number if you want the whole kit, but if you're doing a rebuild, you can do the little kits. People who do car repairs probably are very old-fashioned car repairs are very familiar with this. So this is something I know. So it's almost like the secret you have and the secret you don't have. So now I have a part number, I have a question, and I now know there should be a logistics manual. Seems pretty simple to me, right? 24 hours later, I have the logistics manual. You can find it right on the internet. Is it easy to find? Absolutely not. It required me to make some educated guesses. Okay? The first educated guess was that it looked military to me. It didn't look commercial. Okay? And I can't tell you why. What does military look like versus commercial, Jim? I have no freaking idea. But it looked military to me. So I went back and I looked at the timeline that it was acquired in the 60s. And so I'm thinking, okay, let's assume it came from somewhere in the Air Force or the Army or one of the military companies. There's a mil-spec manual out there somewhere. I find the manual for the F-106 Delta. And sure enough, if you scope down through the pages, one of the two numbers matches on 4 or 5 different sub-assembly parts. The number is comprised of like a 5-digit number, a dash, and another number or set of numbers. The first set of numbers before the dash is the entire assembly part number, as maintained in this manual. Okay, and so the 6-digit or 5 or 6-digit number matches a Convair, I think it was, off the top of my head. I did not take notes for these videos. The whole point is for me to talk to off the top of my head. But it belongs to Convair. It did come from an F-106, okay? And I've matched that assembly number. Not only that, I've gone out and I found photographs of the 106 landing gear, and you will see that in the documentary. They match perfectly. And I even went out as far as to look at the model kit industry, because they make 1/48 scale replacement kits of the assembly, and lo and behold, you get a good black and white, or you get a good photograph against the color background of the completely disassembled kit. And you look at it, you go, okay, even the 148 looks just like it did on the Galileo. So that's how I research. I don't think it's really anything earth-shattering. This is what I learned in school. You find your evidence by looking for it first. If you can't find the evidence, then you do witness interviews. If you get a preponderance of evidence from the witness interviews, you get everybody who describes they saw something, they know something, they were there when something happened, and there's no other evidence to support their claims, it stays in a gray area. But at some point, enough people start saying they saw something, did something, experienced something, and now the area is not so gray anymore. You can't have, 100 people hallucinate about something at different times throughout their lives and have them be identical and not go, okay, there's an underlying thread. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Now, I'll give you more examples as we go along, and you'll see some of these things completed like this. I'll probably put this particular piece of the documentary out early on the main channel, showing you how I got there and the photographs that go with it. But that's how I do research. It's search, 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 search. I must have about 50 to 60,000 photographs that I've downloaded, and I am desperately waiting for a day when AI allows me to intelligently search through them, because it's very difficult to find a photograph of that F-106 landing strut unless I have a very good filing system for it. And let's face it, most of us don't have such a very good filing system. And so it goes in, it gets thrown in junk drawer, and then you pick it up later and you go, oh, that's where that was. So yeah, that's it for this time around. If you'd like to hear any other comments on any other question, on any other topics, or you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And then I'll see you again soon. Take care.